So now we're getting our recording going, and that will be posted, so you can miss that preamble. So that's just fine. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Jen. Again, those of you who don't know me, I think most of you do. I'm Phil Mason, Vice President of Business Development for Hertzler Systems. Jen is my technical resource here today, and here's the quick rundown of where we'll be going. So go ahead and flip to the next slide, Jen. So as many of you have heard us talk about, we are on a new platform today. If you have any feedback, good, bad, otherwise, email me at the end of today's session, and or even during it, I suppose. And so I can try and address these things and make our Tech Tips Live time together as useful as possible. So what we're talking about today is kind of our first two items there, the no code, low code ways to tweak GainSeeker. And the third leg of that, how we think about it, is pro code. And that, of course, is much more complex, more time consuming, but also can have a much bigger scope. And as I was thinking about that, I thought about the triple constraints. And the triple constraints, I put, there's many illustrations of it, but I put just one of them up there, of this idea of of these three things, you can choose two of them. You can have something really fast, but it's probably going to cost you. You can have something of a lot of scope, but it's usually going to take some time. Or you can also have a lot of scope that may cost more. And so today, what we're focusing on are the things that have low cost, low time, and at one level, they don't have a huge scope, but they can sometimes make a significant difference. And that's just some of the things that we want to show you so that you can take away from today's session some practical steps with little or no code to get more out of your GainSeeker. I don't know, anything else you want to say on that, Jen, before I turn it over to you?
No, I think you did very well. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to mute my video, and you can take it away, Jen.
Well, thank you. And Phil, as always, anytime I go through here, and now I've got, 25 minutes, so I will talk a little fast, but Phil, again, as I talk through something, if there's, an added value comment, please go ahead while I'm doing something. We're used to that, going right over the top of each other. So the first thing I wanted to do was do something that's got absolutely no code to it, but it can have a big impact. It's very valuable. Some of you may know this, you may not. I will be going over it quickly. And that is, you have an Excel sheet, somebody gave you information, it's not in GainSeeker, you're like, oh, really, I'm gonna have to crunch, and I just want my GainSeeker charts. So we've had this for a while. It's a hidden gem. You can use GainSeeker charts on data that's not in there, and you don't have to use Python code to get it in. So I'm going to show you that. I want to show you in the dashboards. Yes, you can write code all day long. You can get Google charts in there, but we have a lot of built-in capabilities that is extremely powerful and very quick to get some very critical information to show up. So I'm going to show you the big dashboard widget, and then also the dashboard grid. Takes a few more clicks, but gives you a lot of information and things that you can tweak and you can filter and do your date specific without doing any code at all. So I want to start with that, and then I'll kind of transition into the inspections. So let's say you have a spreadsheet up. Oh, something like this. You have some data on it, actually have a couple different characteristics. For time's sake, I'm just going to highlight the whole thing. I'm going to right click and I'm copying. So that's on my clipboard. I run over here to GainSeeker charts real quick because somebody's, talking, doing something. I just want to see it in GainSeeker, right? I can simply go up to File, External Data. Now we've got a lot of options here. It's just copied from the clipboard, right? That's exactly where I put it. So I'm going to choose that. My clipboard's right up here. I don't need to use that for anything, but it's showing me my part number. So that's why I kept it there. I don't have to assign anything, but that's my date and time. I can click and drag. Hey, there's my shift. There's my operator. And which, you know, there's 3 different pieces of information. I could do this 3 different times, but I'm going to address the cavity pressure. So just in case I want to save it, I'm going to use a part number, E-34. Hey, there's my cavity pressure. And then I'm going to say this is my data. Any other columns there, you don't need to worry about it. I don't want to bring in this row, right? That's my header row, but I can easily just say remove the row. I always keep it in there because it helps me remember what's in each column. So I hit OK. Hey, what kind of control chart or what kind of chart do you want? I want a control chart. And just that easy from a spreadsheet, I have data into GainSeeker. Now, right now, it's not saved. It's not part of my GainSeeker database, but I can do absolutely anything that I normally would in GainSeeker, which includes like running the variation wizard and knowing the difference. Yes, Phil.
Well, I was just going to tell everybody, you know, and we were going over this and you and I were kind of practicing. I saw this and I thought of everybody on the call and I thought, you know, what a cool thing that, say, you're in a meeting and you have a variety of people from your facility or your company and you're the only one with GainSeeker on your laptop or whatever, and somebody's displaying some data and they're like, hey, you know, we've got this, and whether it's delivery times or, you know, it's mean time of how long a sale takes or whatever, to say to them, hey, send me your data over, pops the file over, you do a quick import and boom, you know, here's the distribution of that. I think that's a really cool party trick. We were kind of laughing about it, is that using this external data, you can show people who aren't familiar even with GainSeeker some of the power that you have to just quickly take some data, run some analysis on it, get some statistics, you know, run some of the wizards. It's really a powerful tool.
Yeah, send it off to PowerPoint. And if you really needed to or wanted to, you can go back to external data and you can save it. I won't, but that's just a neat feature. And the next thing I said, I wanted to show the big data widget, and I'm actually doing a brand new dashboard. As you hover down here, we have a big data widget for DMS, for defects, and for SPC. I'm choosing SPC. I clicked on it, pops it right up here. We've got it in focus. I go to the right-hand side here, and you can see in my properties, it says date period 1 month ending today. Well, my dates happen to be a little bit older, so I can go in there, quickly change it. If I wanted to do any kind of filter or any kind of maximum count, I can do that. I'm going to quickly save and display, right? So like 2 clicks and I have a big data widget. And what this does is it really does our variation wizard, but it does it on a global scale. So for any data, any standards, characteristics you have data for that time period, it's churning through it. It's doing that F and T test automatically for all these different characteristics, and then it's going to rank them in order. So you notice I have a lot of bad data here. Shame on me. Already puts the colors on there. You can actually see the results. If I highlight it, I can quickly click, and there's my chart on it. So another really big, impactful. You can see things really quick. Dive into the data by just a few clicks on a dashboard. Right. The other thing, we'll just go back here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one, is the dashboard grid. It is another one that's very powerful. You can even choose the fields that you want to show, right? So I add a column and I click over here, and here's my options that I have. This is the short list. You have control of defining your short list versus your large list. Here's the full list. Like really, you can put whatever you want to see on here. For quick, I'm going to say, oh, I want to see the data count. I'm going to click add again. I'm going to say, how about my real-time failures? I'm going to hit add again. And the spark line. Very cool. And let's, how about one more? Get a stat in here. We'll do CPK. You can also do colors. Define your date period. Use a filter. You only want weights in here. Diameters, things of that. You can definitely do that. We have display colors. Most people use the statistical features. You can do them based on filters. And we also have this region color. So if you wanted to define based on a number of your own, like if I'm going to base on, let me make sure I'm on the right one here. That's not do CPK. I'm highlighting the real-time failure count. Let's say if I add maybe 1 to 5, I want it to show yellow. And then, 5 to 20. Actually, let's just do 5 to 200 real quick here on my timing. We'll say that's red. And again, it'd be based on what would be meaningful for you. Hit OK. Kind of get it a little bigger here. So a few more clicks, right click display. And it's got all the part numbers that are associated during that time period. It's got my data counts. It's got my failures. It has my colors that I just coded in there, sparkline and CPK. And again, you click, you can sort them however you want. And real quick, you've got some meaningful information on a dashboard with no code. Awesome. All right, I'm going to close up shop here on the dashboard one. So the next thing, I know you're all waiting for this, right? We're getting into inspections, whether you've just dabbled in it a little bit, a lot, enough to request something, right? What can we do that doesn't involve a whole lot of time, a whole lot of code, or it's just getting you to that next step? It's getting you a little bit, 1 line, 2 line. That's how I learned. And the next thing you know, you're coding like paragraphs. Anyway, I want to talk about planned inspections. It's another way of being able to use GainSeeker, use the inspections without having to program with Python on which standards to use for our operators. So I am going to go in here and show you one of the planned inspections that I have. What a planned inspection does is it allows you to take, pick an inspection that you have created and set values for it in step 2. So here, and we're looking at the numeric input specifically, I've got in that inspection, I have a diameter X and Y. In this planned inspection, I have actually selected the D34KW for the diameter X and Y, and that's visible. The other nice thing about planned inspections is if you have a huge inspection, it's like a first article, first piece, you've got to measure 20 different things. You have them all on there. You can make another planned session then and take off the ones that you don't need for an hourly check and say that that's your hourly check. So when I look at the F60 one I made, you notice that the part numbers are F60 for diameter X and Y. Now I want to see, good. I just want to make sure I still had it. So if I run it, I'm going to go right to the numeric inputs where you can see automatically that the D34 is populated here. So I don't have to select it, don't have to type anything. It's automatically selected for the operator. So that's what planned inspections are. I usually in training, I'm like, okay, does anybody have any questions? I need to know. Just type them in there and we'll get to them. The next thing was that going into an inspection and looking at a couple of the properties. So let's go to manage inspections. I have this SPC data entry that I've created just for you guys. Nothing real fancy. I've got a sub inspection here with traceability, some formulas that we'll get into in a little bit. And then I have a sub inspection with my numeric inputs here. So a couple things to note. If I'm not going to use planned inspections, because one of the things is for every new part, you're going to have to create a new planned inspection, right? You need to manage those. Sometimes if it's a QA lab person, it might not be a big deal if they select the actual part number or the standard that we're using. So what you can do to make it easier for the person to select it is actually use this SPC standard search string. So if you look in the middle here, I said my numeric input is for pressure. So when I click on this, I had typed in pressure and it's only going to show the operators any of my part numbers that contain the word pressure in it. So it's a way to reduce the amount of selection. And I did the same thing for the temperature. So I put temp in the search string. So I will run this here, but the other part I wanted to mention is in the sub inspection property. And I got to that by going back over to the left-hand side, clicking my numeric inputs, and notice oh, I'm sorry. I'm flipping around here. It is actually on each numeric input. And where am I showing here? There it is, sorry. The nice thing, this was new with, I believe, version 9.2. So depending on where your version is, you might need to get this. You used to have 3 or 4 lines of code to do this, but it selects side panel chart on focus. And when you click on any of these properties, you go down here to the bottom on the yellow and you can read what it means. And that means when it's set to true, if I have charts set up, it'll automatically bring that chart related to that numeric input into focus when the operator runs it, and we'll see that. So I've got that for both of these. So I'm going to go ahead and run this program. I have my lot, it's remembered from last time. I've got my shift required, my operator. And if you notice here, and if we have time, we'll talk about it, that I only have a couple options for my operator. We'll get to that in a second. Machine, and notice that when I type 1400 in the machine, did you notice when I clicked out that my cavity was automatically assigned? That is a very low code that we're going to get into, and we're going to show that as soon as I am done with this. So entering the standard at runtime, you have to select your part number. You notice it's only showing pressure, so it's using that search string. So I'm going to say 1400 pressure. You notice we've got a chart coming up, which is great since I never remember what I need to type for the entry number. My subgroup's good. You notice there's nothing here yet because I haven't selected my part number. Put that in. And not only does it pop up, but you notice that the chart now went from the pressure to the control chart, and that's by that one property setting it to true. So if nothing else, if you learn, that's a new property, and it's very, very useful. Use it. And then you notice that it just goes back, so I could fill in again if I wanted.
All right, Jen, we're down to it's 2:22. So you got 8 minutes. So plan accordingly.
Yes. So let's look at some low code. in worst case, I'll just show some of the other code, and we are going to have that shared for everybody, right, Phil?
Yeah, I may just be putting it in the chat. The attach file functionality I had when it was just you and I, Jen, has disappeared, which is probably because there are all these outsiders, non-company people. So again, as we learn with our new Microsoft Teams platform, but I'll probably paste some of it in. So get going. Sorry, I'll stop talking now.
And sorry about my chair. Get excited. It's an antique chair, people. So let's get to the machine to cavity code. Let's take a sneak peek. Remember when I picked 1400 for the machine, it automatically set my cavity. So let's take a sneak peek up here. So I had, if the test ID is machine, which I labeled our traceability label, test ID is machine, it says, hey, if this value is 1400, then I want the value of cavity to be 15. So I know it's just a few lines of code. You could keep doing this, else if it's, 1500, is it something else? So you can keep going down on these if statements, but just providing a few lines of code can make it easier for the operator. So again, we'll have these. The other one, let me close this, is setting a priority list. Setting a priority list, if you guys aren't fully aware of it, is something you can do in GainSeeker utility. I'm going in overdrive here. The priority list editor, you can reduce the list per user of either part numbers or traceabilities. So when I look at here on the operator traceability, I only set myself to C2. The nice thing about this is unless you use it and set to use the priority list, it won't be in every single inspection. So in order to set the priority list that you set up in the utility is literally one line of code. It's right here, inspect.curb sub I trace operator. And the reason my operator list, right, because that's my label, why does that say number 6? I go back real quick, and the easy way is my operator is the 6th traceability. So if you're not sure, you can quickly come back to inspections, click on this traceability label, and it'll tell you what traceability it is. So you need that on the back end. Other good pieces of information I had on my sheet, but we're just going to jump in and keep going here, is a validation example. I got this from Chris. He uses it all the time. This is a simpler version of it, but thank you, Chris, for the code. A lot of times if you've got a work order number, a lot number, at least you need to know it's 6 characters. If it's not, if it's before or after 6 characters, it's not right. So Chris has an on-change Python code that says if the test ID is lot number, we're going to make a little variable here, and we're going to put that value in this variable, and then we're going to analyze this variable. And we're simply saying if the length of this lot number is not 6, right? That's all we're checking. If it's not 6, I want you to display a message to the user. I then want you to clear it, right? Clear out that bad data. And then I want you to set focus back in there so we can put something else in there. So just a few lines of code, and I want to show you what it looks like.
I did throw that in the chat. So if you're on, I'm guessing you should be able to copy and paste that.
Yes, and I've done that from a chat before, so that should definitely be possible.
All right.
Thank you, Phil. So you can see it's invalid, pops up, click here to continue. It got wiped out and it's set back to focus. So just by a few individual lines of code, we've got a validation test here. Yes, I do want to exit. So a couple of other snippets we'll get is inspect.shutdown. You notice when I got done with my entering in the numeric, it went back to my list of sub inspections. Maybe I just want it to shut down completely so I don't have to worry about the operator to do it. One line of code, inspect.shutdown. That be on post. Then sometimes inspect that set next sub inspection. You could have a field, and depending on what the operator chooses, what's going to be the next sub inspection. So that's again low code in order to be flexible and have an inspection that has multiple sub inspections in it. There is our lot number 1 that Phil gave us. And then another one real quick, Byron was nice enough to give us this one. And this one is setting your shift values, right? And we're timesing 100 here, so we're doing it minutes from 6 a.m. to 2:30. So we're just saying if, and we have this variable current time is less than or equal to 6, greater than or equal to 6, sorry. And I knew that sounded wrong. And less than 2:30, then shift value is 1. Oops. Else if, and you notice how we do a shortcut here, if it's between 2:30 and 10:30, it's 2. And otherwise, we can just say otherwise it's shift 3 because there's no other choices in there. So I know I just did that really, really fast, and I got 2 minutes to spare on here. But these are just a couple different ways that you can do low code and have a very, very good impact. The one thing that I will say, at least for me, that's very helpful, because I have 1 minute left. Sorry, Phil. Is in the appendix. I live by this, especially since I don't program anymore. Python scripting, Python commands. Down here, we have examples. We have how to do it. And trust me, if you get one thing wrong, Python's nice enough to give you a nice little error to say, it's not right. This is like my Python Bible right here. Okay, Phil.
All right.
Sorry.
You made it, Jen. You made it with a whole minute spare.
I know. You're scaring me. I was
like... Thanks for hanging in there with us, everybody. If you have any questions, you can use the chat window there. I have put those code snippets in there. And I do believe that also with the Teams webinars, I will get an attendee list, which has your emails and such. So I could send that back out as well. So again, any questions, feel free to type those on in there. You want to go to the next slide, Jen, while I'll see if anybody has any questions. So September 16th is our next TTL, and we will be visiting the whole topic of keeping your database healthy. We all, databases work great until they don't, and it's usually lack of some just normal upkeep. A little bit, it's kind of like a library, right? When the books are all in the Dewey Decimal System, you know the system, you know how to get there. But SQL and some of those other databases aren't always really good about all their housekeeping. And so sometimes we need to do some of that to keep them healthy and keep GainSeeker running at its best. So we will be delving into that topic a month from now. We will have a recording of this coming shortly. Usually takes a little bit, and I'll get it up to YouTube and on our page. But as usual, thank you so much for coming, and we appreciate you guys taking a half hour to learn more about GainSeeker, and hopefully this helps you all get more out of it. And thank you, Jen. It was a great presentation. Went through a lot of great stuff, and I think we gave people some very useful things that they can actually use. All right. Well, we don't have anything else here, and Andy gives Teams a thumbs up. I'm going to be interested to see kind of what the recording looks like, how much of the chatter and some of those things we get in the recording, but we'll play with that, and next month, hopefully it'll be even better. So thank you all. Thanks, Jen, and we'll talk to you all in about a month.
Bye, everybody.